It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams, ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
Hi, my name is Keisha Lewis, and I am an actress currently performing in Hell's Kitchen on Broadway. This is an open letter to Miss Patti Lupone. Miss Lupone, I want to make sure that you know that this letter is from me, not from the cast or crew or producers of Hell's Kitchen. I am speaking for Keisha Lewis only. I hope that you will take 5 minutes out of your day to listen to this letter in its entirety. Ms. Lupone, I understand that there have been a couple of situations that have gone on in the last few weeks that I want to address. The first one is that you contacted our theater owner about changing a couple of our sound cues because you found them to be too loud. You also, after our sound design was adjusted, sent flowers to our sound and stage management team thanking them. Another thing that I'm aware of is that you dismissed publicly signing a fan's Hell's Kitchen playbill because
I'm not signing a Hell's Kitchen. They're too loud.
I wanted to address this because, Ms. Lupone, these actions, in my opinion, are bullying. They're offensive. They're racially microaggressive. They're rude. They're rooted in privilege. And these actions also lack a sense of community and leadership for someone as yourself who has been in the business as long as you have. I want to explain what a microaggression is. These are subtle, unintentional comments or actions that convey stereotypes, biases, or negative assumptions about someone based on their race.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Oh my Lord, Quano. Here's the thing. Hell's Kitchen, it is Alicia Keys' creation, a Broadway show. It is right next door to Patti Lupone and Mia Farrow, who are doing a non-musical play right now, right? Patti Lupone, obviously a huge star on Broadway for decades. Most of our generation remember as Corky's mother. What was that TV show in the 80s with a kid with Down syndrome? But she played the mother, but she's been a star on Broadway for years, typically in musicals, a fantastic actress. Keisha Lewis, the same, all right? Been a staple on Broadway for years, award-winning. And the problem that Miss Lupone has is that the theaters share a shared wall, and there is sound bleed into their theater because the Hell's Kitchen is so loud. So she said something to the people running the play, and when they turned it down, she sent them some flowers as a thank you, right? That seems like an incredibly reasonable thing to do that has nothing to do with race. But Keisha Lewis has decided she's going to lecture Miss Lupone and America on Instagram about racial microaggression when there doesn't appear to be any evidence of any racism. It was just, hey, y'all are so loud that the people attending my play can clearly hear your music in our theater. Could you turn it down a bit? And instead of saying, hey, I don't think we should turn our stuff down, with this new example of what we see over and over again in America is when a person of color disagrees with a white person. It can't just be a disagreement, and you can't speak about all people of color or all white people generally, but it seems to often be reduced to this is racism. And it doesn't sound like racism to me. It sounds like one person wanted it to be as loud as they wanted to be, Miss Lewis, and one person wanted it to be quieter because they're doing a quiet, boring show. Now you give me a choice, I'm going to see Keisha Lewis's play Hell's Kitchen 100 times out of 100, right? Who wants to see Mia Farrow and Patti Lupone on a stage whining about something, right? But why can't Keisha just say, hey, this is Broadway, we're going to be loud, stop your bitching? And why is she criticizing her for sending people flowers as a thank you?
Charles.
And why would you sign a playbill in a play you ain't in?
Charles, I have spent the majority, the overwhelming majority of my adult
Blaming
life,
white people for everything?
of
Yes,
my
I know.
adult life fighting against racism,
Right.
segregation, racist institutions, and fighting against abuse of African Americans for the human and civil rights. But when I listen to Miss Lewis, she sounds like an intelligent sister.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm quite sure she's a gifted, talented actress.
Incredibly.
But in this particular case, I could not find, nor could I see, any evidence that would suggest that this had some racial bias behind it as the motivation of this of Miss Lupone's, Miss Patti Lupone's complaint about the noise, the loudness. So because she complains about the loudness and the noise, it makes her uncomfortable. She doesn't like it, so she's saying turn it down. Does that really make you a racist?
Not at all.
And I think what it does to use racism in this context, in this particular case, weakens and dilutes the real cries of racism when it's seen, when it's practiced, and you've been the victim of it. There are some real legitimate cases where racism is real, but if you take petty BS like this and try to make it a race issue, it weakens the real cry of legitimate racism cases.
Well, clearly, there's infinite examples
and
of
trust
white
me,
racism in this country.
I would want to be the first to find that there's
years.
some evidence to just
Right.
racism here, but I don't
Right.
see it.
What this speaks to is Miss Lewis's privilege, right? That this wealthy stage actress who has the privilege of shouting fire in a crowded theater when there ain't no damn fire, right? That she's crying racism and directing it at another accomplished actress when there was no evidence of it as a bullying tactic. And she is privileged to bully in that way. It's a new privilege. It's probably only been around for the last 25 years or so. But the way you can bully silence in a white person is you just call them racist. Now, you're absolutely right. When you call people that aren't acting racist, you deafen ears to the actual
Those legitimate
accusations
cases.
of legitimate, because there is
Right.
absolutely plenty of racism to go around.
Right.
But it is a privilege to try to bully someone into silence by screaming racism when it's not occurring, and it keeps happening more and more in America.
Because I was truly, in reading this story, I was searching where could I find some evidence that suggests, yeah, there's a hidden motivation here that shows that there's some potential bias based on race. I didn't see it, Charles.
Right.
And what bothers me about it is that these are two affluent, successful people, women. And you got one privileged woman complaining about another privileged woman. Then they're cross-complaining. Is this really about racism?
Well, I haven't heard Lupone clap back at all.
Is this racism, or is this really more about two affluent women who want to have their way? And don't you dare criticize me.
And I will tell you, Soundbleed is, my wife likes Broadway shows. I like to do things that make my wife happy. In fact, I'm going to a couple of plays later this week in New York. It's a real thing. You can sometimes hear the show next door if you're in a quiet show, if it's a loud show. And I imagine it's very typical, not out of the ordinary, for someone to say, hey, could y'all turn it down a little bit?
I just don't want to see cases that's not really about race being portrayed as such, because it weakens those legitimate cases.
Well, hopefully someone will tell Miss Lewis that, but I think she's probably way too privileged to listen.
A street takeover in Anaheim takes a terrifying turn when an out-of-control car swerves into the crowd, running over two teenagers. The driver manages to escape into the crowd as angry spectators attack the vehicle.
KTLA's Rachel Menatop live in Anaheim with the latest on those injured teens and the search for that hit-and-run driver.
Micah Sher, good evening. Miraculously, the two teens injured at this intersection are going to be just fine. And when you see the video, you understand just how dangerous this street takeover was, with cars doing donuts at high speed and people watching and throwing fireworks in all directions. Daring and dangerous. The driver of a 10,000-pound Dodge Charger recklessly doing donuts and taking over the intersection of Orangewood Avenue and State College Boulevard early Friday morning.
In this round, here's Quanell X.
Charles, we just watched a video out of California, in Anaheim, I believe, where there was a quote-unquote street takeover, and some say it was rooted in the celebration of the Dodgers winning the World Series. And in that street takeover that we watched, Charles, on video, 2 individual teenagers were, I guess, accidentally, I don't think it was on purpose, injured while this guy was doing donuts and spinning in his Dodge Charger in the middle of the street. But in these street takeovers, these type of injuries happen more often than many people know. Often these teenagers are in the streets trying to get up very close to these vehicles as they're doing these donuts and all kind of other antics, and they're trying to film and record to be a part of the atmosphere of what's taking place and wind up getting injured. Some even been killed in the past.
Right here in Houston, we've had people killed.
These street takeovers are serious. Police, unfortunately, really can't do a whole lot about
Yes,
to
they
enforce
could.
it. Well, let me say what I've seen, Charles. They have these lookouts, and once the cops are coming, they put out a signal, everybody take off, they're
Okay.
gone. And so the police can't chase everybody involved. And then remember, if the police don't actually see them doing the particular antics, they really can't arrest them once they get to the scene. They've been warned that the police are coming.
So these takeovers have become a huge problem in California,
Texas,
the
too.
Bay Area, and Los Angeles. Yeah, well, they were becoming a big problem here in Houston, and I know that for a while HPD had a no chase policy, right? But now we've got a new mayor, we've got a more aggressive ethos, and HPD, the county was always aggressive with it, especially the constable's office. But you know, there's one. It used to, you know, car meetups used to be a thing. They get in a parking lot, then hang out. We had a famous example of what 25, 30 years ago, where a bunch of kids were unfairly arrested, just a car meetup, and some officers lost their job and got some real trouble. But these aren't car meetups anymore. They shut down intersections. They trap people on the Golden Gate Bridge. They trap people on highways, and they drift in circles out of control. They pose significant danger. When people object to try to get by, we've had examples of people being dragged out of the car and beat, cars vandalized. And this is just another prime example of law enforcement abandonment of the rule of law. Would it take some real effort to arrest a bunch of people? Yes.
Yeah, but
they need to
if the
arrest them.
police flood the scene and chase these vehicles that's involved in this and chase them, are they not creating an even more dangerous environment?
Well, it depends. It depends on how you do it. Let's not pretend that we live in a world where the bad guys are in control. It's if they dedicate enough resources to shut down roads completely, to attack the situation aggressively.
But these street pop-ups are spontaneous.
No, they're typically not, though.
They're really not playing
they are playing
in
on
advance
social media. Yes,
to where
they
law
are.
enforcement can really organize
But
around it.
Here's the thing. We need a rapid response. We need everyone that's caught fleeing, especially in a vehicle, needs
How
to be
do
charged
you
with
do
a
that?
felony.
How do you do that,
You
Charles?
deploy when you know it's occurring regularly. You deploy the resources, the manpower. You investigate the situation. You find where they're promoting these things on social media. You might have to do a little real police work.
But I don't think you should chase some of these guys that's out there doing donuts and
think-
Hellcats.
I think-
Have you seen some of these Hellcats, man? Have
Yeah,
you seen
I
how they embarrass police cars?
Okay.
These Hellcats,
Again,
a real dangerous environment.
we have helicopters. You have fast police cars.
The ghetto
you have
bird.
the ability to shut things down.
You can use the ghetto bird to
Okay,
help enforce some of
here's
this,
the thing.
yes.
We need
That's what we
to-
call the police helicopter in the neighborhood. And
American,
we call the helicopter the ghetto bird.
America's law-abiding citizens need to remind the police that it is their job not to write us ticky-tack tickets, not to enforce prohibition and arrest people for having a little weed or a little cocaine
But
or anything.
At,
but instead,
at a street
to keep
meetup,
us safe.
it's going to really be just misdemeanors, Charles.
Okay, but that's the thing. If you're fleeing in a vehicle, it's a felony. And maybe we need to drop serious charges on people organizing them as organized crime. Maybe we need to start treating these things for what they are,
You
which
now
are vehicles to
want to use
endanger the lives
organized
of many
crime
Yeah, if it's a-
statutes
yes.
against young teenagers
Against people
who are
those
organizing
responsible-
street meetups
if-
to do donuts and cars.
if they're
We want to use
if
organized
they're
crime
shutting
charges
down
against them.
intersections, if they're abusing pedestrians, if they're abusing other motorists that aren't involved, if there's physical violence, if they're trespassing on property, if they're engaging in vandalism. Look, if they were just
organized crime is for the mafia,
look,
Charles, drug dealers, drug lords.
If you look at what's going on in San
kids.
Francisco, where they shut down the entire Golden Gate Bridge and beat up people who try to get around them, that's organized crime. And the thing is, we have to remind the criminals of this country that there is a rule of law.
So we want to give conspiracy charges to teenagers?
It's not necessarily teenagers.
For just street meetups?
No, these are grown-ass men, okay? And what we need to do in America is remind the bad guys that there's a consequence for their actions. And it is who suffers the most. Again, it's typically the urban poor
what
guy
I would say
trying
is
to get to work.
Use
the guy
more
that lives in a big
technology
city,
to identify.
trying to get to Five Guys
use
or
more
Chipotle
technology to identify these
job.
guys,
okay, yeah.
and then deal with them. But I'm not for more police chases
right now
in
we're not
situations
doing
like
anything.
this.
Yeah.
Innocent people are dying.
Just like we identified everybody in January 6th, we could most certainly identify all these people, but we're not.
But not with organized crime
we're not.
charges.
There's no consequence. There's so much crime in this country right now, and there is either little or to no. With the way people shop.
Well, let's not have a knee-jerk reaction either.
It's not knee-jerk. We need public safety, and it's time for the police to get back to the job of keeping us safe.
For his time over at Penn State just yesterday. So the former NFL star was filmed smashing someone's phone after a homophobic slur was directed at his brother Travis.
Kelsey! Hey, Kelsey! Kelsey! I can feel your brother's Kelsey, can I get a fist bump? Kelsey, can I get a fist bump?
As you heard there, the guy directed a slur to his brother Travis and his relationship with singer Taylor Swift. But it didn't end there. In the video obtained by TMZ Sports, Kelsey let the man have it when he demanded his phone back using the same homophobic slur 3 times.
I have no problem with how he handled the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he needed to use it because they cut out the part where he said, "Who's the pejorative for gay people now," right? He responded with like, "Who's the F word now?" Which would be akin to if someone called a white dude, a racial pejorative, and then the white dude responded the racial pejorative. Yeah, that was inappropriate. But
you don't get the right to bully a professional former athlete who played the game at a very high level. That doesn't matter, but you don't get the right to bully him, calling his brother the F word, using a homophobic slur, and then when he puts you in your place and check you and say, who's the F word now, all of a sudden you the victim. You ain't no damn victim.
I don't think it's a victim.
You a bully who got exactly what you deserve.
Do you think it was okay for Kelsey to shatter the guy's phone?
Hell yeah, it was.
Okay.
Because you don't get the right to bully me, pursue me, hunt me, chase me down, and stick your electronic device in my face while insulting my brother and think I don't have a right to respond. If you want to stay on your side of the street while I'm on mine, I'm going about my business, but then you want to come and crowd my space and chase me down the street, no, you deserve to get your ass kicked.
Don't you think that's part of the price, especially in this modern age of ugliness everywhere? Don't you think that's part of the price of fame? Right? Dealing with ugly people?
No, let me say this. I understand taking your electronic device, filming public servants, doing their job like police officers. But when you violating the space of private citizens,
well, he's not. He's a very public, famous person.
No, he's a private citizen.
But he chooses to
I don't give a damn if he's a public celebrity or not. They still deserve to be treated like human beings, and they deserve their private space. You don't get to violate a person's private space yelling homophobic slurs, and then when they whoop your ass, all of a sudden now you the victim. I don't buy that.
Well, actually, I think somebody shoved Jason to the ground. But that was later.
See, now he's assaulted.
But here's the thing.
You with me?
Okay.
This got to stop, man.
But don't you think by shattering his phone over mere words that he's actually letting the bad guy win in that situation?
If you sticking your phone in my
but
face,
don't you think controlling your temper
bullying
would
me,
have been the better option?
hunting me down, harassing me, and I'm trying to get away from you while you're yelling homophobic slurs, he did the right thing. You should have whooped his ass, period.
Okay, but don't you think by allowing mere words to make you commit vandalism or theft or robbery or whatever they want to
If
call
those
it,
words lead to bullying, harassment, slander, intimidation, and space violation, you deserve whatever the hell you
but
get.
don't you think you're letting the bad guy win?
No, the bad guy didn't win. The bad guy got his phone smashed and got some hands put on my thing.
Right, but here's the thing. So what if he goes to the police and they charge Jason Kelsey?
Charge him with what? Self-defense?
With criminal mischief or destruction
What criminal
of property.
mischief?
It could
That's
be,
self-defense.
I mean, if it's a brand new phone, it could be a
Excuse
felony
me.
level
So
offense.
Mr. Kelsey does not have the right to stand his ground?
No, I'm not
When
saying
you
that.
violate somebody's personal private space,
why not?
harassing them, bullying them, threatening them, using homophobic slurs in their private space, you ain't got a right to stand your ground?
But would it make more sense as Jason Kelsey to just video the guy back?
Oh, hell no.
Put him on your social media
Oh,
and say,
hell
hey,
no.
here's this guy using a
You
ugly
can
pejorative.
video him back if he's on his side of the road and I'm on mine.
But it puts him on
But when you
blast.
come over here
Because America
and
doesn't
stick
have
it
tolerance
in my
for that
face,
sort of homophobia.
yelling at me, threatening me, and calling my own
Well,
family
I didn't-
homophobic slurs, oh, it's on and popping,
Okay,
baby.
here's a
It's
very-
on and popping.
I didn't hear threats, right? If he said, I'm going to get your brother, I'm going to kill your brother, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to do something, hey, game on. But I didn't hear any of that.
So at what
I just heard
point
some schmuck
do you
saying,
get the right to defend yourself against this type of bullying?
Well, when he touches him.
Touches him.
Right.
He stuck it in his face.
Well, I didn't touch him with it.
That's his private space.
Right, but don't you think...
So,
that-
but the stand your ground law does not say touching has to take place.
Well, standing your ground doesn't pertain to the situation. He wasn't exhibiting...
Excuse me, if
there
you
was no
violate
deadly
somebody's
force.
space
No,
in a threatening
no,
way,
no,
you got a
no,
right to stand your
no.
ground.
Stand your ground is very different, right? There was no threat of violence. There was
Why
no
wasn't it?
Because he didn't
You
threaten
following
violence.
me, harassing me, bullying me, calling my brother homophobic slurs, violating my private space. That's not a threat.
See, I think Jason,
You should
although
have-
sticking up for his brother,
Jason,
should
you
have
should have
regurgitated
pimp
the
slapped
story.
the hell out of him.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.